Picture a wall, not a thin wall. The thickest, most expensive, most technically advanced defensive wall ever built by any country in the history of modern warfare. Multiple layers, multiple systems, each one designed to catch what the one above it missed. Each one backed by decades of engineering, billions of dollars, and real combat experience. Now picture someone throwing rocks at it. Not big rocks, not sophisticated rocks, just rocks, constantly, from every direction. One after another, never stopping, never pausing, cycling through in waves. The wall does not fall. But eventually, the people defending it run out of something more important than technology. They run out of missiles to stop the rocks. That is the strategy Iran has been running against Israel's missile defense system since February 28, 2026. And this week, for the first time, an official confirmation arrived that the strategy is working. Semafor reported, citing U.S. officials with direct knowledge, that Israel informed the United States it is running critically low on ballistic missile interceptors. One U.S. official told Semafor, "It's something we expected and anticipated." The Israeli government simultaneously approved $826 million in emergency defense procurement, a number that says more about the shortage than any press release ever could. The wall is not broken, but the people defending it are counting their remaining ammunition in ways they were not at the start of this war. And Iran designed this outcome from the beginning. The architecture. Iran is trying to exhaust. To understand why Iran's barrage strategy works as a mathematical problem, you need to understand what Israel built and what it costs to run it. Israel's missile defense operates in 4 layers. At the top, Arrow 3 handles exoatmospheric threats, ballistic missiles above the atmosphere, at altitudes above 100 kilometers, caught in space before they re-enter. Arrow 2 covers upper atmosphere terminal engagements, the final defensive layer for threats that Arrow 3 missed or could not reach. David's Sling handles medium-range threats in the middle altitudes, cruise missiles, slower ballistic trajectories, the weapons that fall between the gaps of the other systems. Iron Dome handles the lowest layer, short-range rockets, artillery, shells, anything below 70 kilometers of range. Each layer is designed to catch what the one above it could not. The architecture assumes that multiple interception opportunities exist for each incoming threat. In practice, military doctrine calls for firing 2 to 3 interceptors at each incoming target to maximize kill probability. This is called the shoot, look, shoot doctrine. Fire, assess whether the threat was destroyed, fire again if needed. The cost of that doctrine, when applied at scale, is staggering. Arrow 3 interceptors, approximately $2 to $3 million each. Arrow 2, comparable range. David's Sling interceptors, approximately $1 million per shot. Patriot PAC-3 interceptors, $4 million each. THAAD interceptors, $15.5 million per shot. Iran's ballistic missiles, between $500,000 and $2 million depending on type. Iran's Shahed drones, $20,000 to $60,000 each. The cost of symmetry runs in Iran's favor at every level of the engagement. Every time Israel fires 2 interceptors at one incoming missile, and misses, it has spent more money than the missile cost Iran to launch, and it has nothing to show for it. Every time Israel fires 2 interceptors and hits, it has still spent more than the incoming weapon cost. The only scenario where the economics favor the defender is if the attack simply stops. Iran is not stopping. The 85% problem. During the June 2025 12-day war, analysts estimated that Israeli and U.S. forces intercepted 273 of 322 Iranian missiles, an intercept rate of approximately 85%. 85% sounds like a success. In a different context, 85% would be extraordinary. But run the arithmetic on what 85% means when the incoming volume is large enough. In the first 2 days of the current conflict, Iran fired nearly 100 projectiles at Israel, at 85% intercept rate. Roughly 15 projectiles reached their targets per 100 launched. That is not a margin of safety. That is a failure rate that fills hospital emergency rooms, that collapses buildings, that kills people in shelters designed to survive everything except a direct hit. On March 1st, an Iranian ballistic missile struck a residential area in Beit Shemesh, west of Jerusalem. 9 civilians were killed, dozens were wounded. The IDF had launched at least 2 interceptors at the incoming missile. Both missed. The missile hit a communal shelter in a synagogue, the exact place people had gone to survive exactly this scenario. The interceptors worked as designed. The doctrine worked as planned. The shoot-look-shoot sequence was executed. And 9 people died in the shelter where they had been told to go. That is what 15% means at human scale. Modern diplomacy's analysis of the interceptor situation identified the fundamental asymmetry that makes attrition Iran's winning strategy. Defensive systems must intercept nearly every incoming threat to protect cities and infrastructure, while attackers need only a few successful strikes to inflict damage. This asymmetry means that sustained bombardment can gradually shift the balance in favor of the attacker. Israel needs to stop everything. Iran needs to get through some things. One of those objectives is achievable. One is not. The cluster munition multiplier. Iran added a specific tactical innovation in this war that made the interceptor exhaustion problem dramatically worse. It is the cluster warhead, a ballistic missile that opens at altitude and releases multiple submunitions before any of them reach the ground. CNN's analysis of this weapon identified exactly why it taxes missile defense so severely. A single missile with cluster munitions releases between 24 and 80 bomblets depending on the variant. The Khorramshahr carries up to 80. These bomblets scatter across an area of 8 to 16 kilometers after separation. They are small, typically 2.5 to 7 kilograms of explosive each. They fall fast. They fall from high altitude. N.R. Jensen Jones, munitions expert and director of Armament Research Services, explained the defense. Problem directly. Iranian designers have probably turned to a high-altitude dispersal approach in part to minimize the chance of a successful ground-based interception. The munitions are small and falling at high speeds. Iron Dome, the system designed for exactly these low-level terminal phase threats, can attempt intercepts, but it fires interceptors that cost far more than the bomblets they are trying to stop, and no single intercept of the primary missile before separation eliminates the threat. The defense requires either intercepting the missile before it opens, a narrow window at high altitude requiring aero-level systems, or chasing dozens of individual submunitions in the terminal phase with a system not optimized for that problem. The analyst quoted by CNN put the strategic logic plainly. Iran doesn't have the capability at the moment of orchestrating a large barrage of ballistic missiles. So if Iran wants to cause a lot of damage, even with a small number of ballistic missiles, then submunition missiles with bomblets will be the weapon of choice. One missile, one interception attempt window. 80 bomblets if the window is missed, and the window is designed to be missed. The stockpile that was already low. The specific cruelty of Israel's current interceptor situation is that this war began before the previous war's consumption was fully replenished. During the June 2025 12-day war, the United States fired approximately 150 THAAD interceptors to defend Israel, assessed at the time as roughly 25% of the total U.S. THAAD inventory. Each interceptor costs $15.5 million. The $35 billion burn rate from a 12-day conflict was significant. The replenishment timeline for THAAD interceptors is not months, it is years. Production capacity exists in only one place, Lockheed Martin's facilities in the United States, and cannot be rapidly scaled regardless of budget authorization. The U.S. also burned through approximately $2.4 billion worth of Patriot interceptors in the first 5 days of the current conflict alone. The redeployment of THAAD components from South Korea to the Middle East, which began on March 10th, confirmed that the regional supply was insufficient on its own to sustain the campaign at current engagement rates. Fortune's pre-war analysis had identified exactly this vulnerability. The ability of the U.S., Israel, and Gulf Arab states to weather Iran's retaliatory strikes will depend on how many missile interceptors they have, and stocks are most likely dangerously low after intense combat with the Islamic Republic last year. Dangerously low going into a second war before the first one's consumption was replaced. That is the situation Israel has been defending from since day one. And Semafor's reporting, Israel informed the United States it is critically low, confirms that the pre-war concern was accurate. The U.S. officials' response to this news is worth reading carefully. It's something we expected and anticipated. Not, we have a plan. Not, we have solved it. We expected it. We anticipated it. Meaning the United States watched Israel enter this war with a known interceptor deficit, launched an operation that would generate massive incoming fire, and anticipated that the deficit would become critical. The $826 million emergency procurement approval is Israel acknowledging the same thing in financial terms. Iran's strategy. In plain English, every element of Iran's approach to striking Israel in this conflict makes sense as a single coherent strategy when viewed through the lens of interceptor attrition. The volume of launches in the opening days, nearly 100 projectiles in 48 hours, was not designed to destroy Israel. It was designed to force maximum interceptor consumption at the moment when the defense was freshest and stocks were highest. The shift to cluster munitions was not about maximizing civilian casualties. It was about forcing the defense to choose between expensive upper-tier interceptions before separation or cheap lower-tier interceptions chasing individual bomblets, both options consuming interceptors against a single incoming missile. The sustained low-level barrage that followed Smaller salvos, spread across days and nights, never allowing the defense to fully stand down, was about maintaining continuous consumption. Each intercept costs money and inventory. Each day the defense runs without replenishment. The next barrage costs Israel relatively more. The IRGC shifted, by March 10th, to firing missiles with payloads of 1,000 kilograms or more. Fewer missiles, heavier warheads, higher value targets. This is not the firing pattern of a force that has unlimited ammunition. It is the firing pattern of a force that is rationing what it has left while maximizing the damage of each remaining shot, and simultaneously forcing the defense to commit its most capable and expensive interceptors against each one. Both sides are counting. Iran knows roughly how many interceptors Israel has consumed. Israel knows roughly how many missiles Iran has left. The war has become an attrition calculation as much as a military campaign, and the side that runs out of something critical first loses the next phase of the engagement. Where the numbers stand. Iran entered this war with an estimated 2,500 ballistic missiles, down from approximately 3,000 before the June 2025 12-day war. By day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, launches had dropped by 90% from the opening days. Whether this reflects physical depletion from U.S.-Israeli strikes on launchers and facilities, deliberate rationing, for a longer campaign, or some combination of both, is not publicly confirmed. Israel entered this war with interceptor stocks already reduced by the June 2025 consumption. By mid-March 2026, it has informed the United States it is critically low. The $826 million procurement approval is a real number that represents real shortfall, but new interceptors do not appear from a procurement approval. They come from production lines operating on timelines measured in months to years. The Arrow 4, the next-generation interceptor, specifically designed to handle maneuvering re-entry vehicles and some hypersonic threats, was announced by Israel Aerospace Industries CEO Boaz Levy in February 2026 as potentially entering service within months. It was not yet deployed when this war began. It will not close the current stockpile gap. It is the answer to next year's problem. The current problem is what is in the magazine right now. The intercept rate of 85%, sustained across a war that has already consumed critical stocks, means Israel is winning most individual engagements and losing the cumulative arithmetic. The defense holds, the inventory drains, and the next barrage begins before the previous one's cost has been replenished. Iran fired 23 separate barrages in one period of sustained operations. The defense stopped most of what came through, and when it was over, the defense had less to work with the next time. This is not what missile defense failure looks like. This is what missile defense exhaustion looks like. And exhaustion is slower than failure, but it arrives at the same place.